Welcome into the best damn pod in the land. I'm your host, Chad Stryker. With me, as always, Dan Divjak. Dan, I think we need to remind people to like and subscribe right off the jump. So
You got me,
we
man. I was going to do it.
we
There we
always
go.
forget. We'll get to the end of the show and be like, hey, you got to like and subscribe. And we're like 45 minutes into this stuff. So yeah, if you don't mind, our views have been way up. So thank you. Our subscriptions have been way up. So thank you. We're just trying to do this as fans, and do a show for fans. And so we appreciate all of you and all of your comments on and questions on Twitter and YouTube and anywhere else that you get your media. So, Dan, how are you? What's going on, man?
I'm great, man. Other than these allergies are kicking my tail right now, but I went back, listened to the last episode. I let that Twitter fool get the best of me that day, and I felt like my energy was flat. So I'm ready to bring it today.
All right.
Had another knucklehead in there questioning my info and through the DMs, and I'm just like, dude, like, don't listen. Stop asking me for info.
Yeah.
If you don't, like, you can call me a liar. It's like
Yeah.
we're not insiders. We just happen to know a couple people that share some info with us this year. So
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. Hey, you're gonna have that, man. It's part of being in the podcasting world, and pretty fortunately, most people have been pretty cool. And for you guys' awareness, we aren't going to tell you who we know. Don't ask. I'm not going to answer you. It's not going to happen. I've had a couple people, asking me about specific things inside the Woody, and I'm not going to tell you. I'm just because they haven't told us it's okay to do so. So and Dan's going to be the same way, and I'll stick up for Dan every time. I do know who he knows, and he knows who I know, and we're not going to tell you. So I don't want to get on a tirade about that, but
we're not here to be insiders. We're not here to, make provocative claims or statements. If we were, we'd share the other 90% of the information that we don't.
And
we're just here to have some fun and share little tidbits that other people are talking about that we know to be true, and talk about our favorite pastime, which is Buckeye football.
Absolutely. Speaking of Buckeye football and podcasting, Dan got to join the Scarlet and Grape podcast recently for a recorded episode that drops today. Dan's on there talking about DB33 Devin Brown, the future starter at Ohio State. Every time I put something out there in the ether lately, man, it happens. I'm talking about kickers, and then there's kickers in the portal, and even though he went to Bama, I was kind of bummed about that. But so obviously we root for Devin Brown, and and I will root for whoever the starter is. As I've said all along, it's Ohio State. It's not Ohio State's quarterback. So I root for. So when can they catch that, Dan?
Yeah.
Did Corey tell you when that's going to drop today?
Sorry, man. Corey just told me. Corey, who's Floco on the podcast, told me it was going to get posted today. They went ahead and put something out regarding the portal because it was a little bit more relevant. But he said that they're going to put it out today, and super appreciative of that. And it was a lot of fun. Corey's a really good guy, and he truly wasn't like trying to be confrontational or argue about it. He said he actually kind of roots for DB himself. It was more about just letting people understand why there is a pretty decent portion of Buckeye Nation that's still pulling for the kid. And I kind of let my background and how I started to follow him and his connection to Joe Germain, who went to my high school, and all of that. And, that's why I started to follow him. And,
I had somebody come in my mentions on Twitter because they asked, I think they posted the question about why people are fans of Devin Brown. And I said it all started here. And then I posted the meme of burning the boats, And he's like, well, that's one reason to like somebody, I guess, if you don't know anything about football. And I was like, won't be replying to you, sir. So, anyways, nope, don't argue with strangers on the internet, man. All right. So, getting into actual stuff. So the transfer portal, Ohio State only has 2 kids so far that have entered the transfer portal. Dallin Hayden is headed to Colorado, interestingly enough. A little bit confused by that one. So what are you going to do, I guess? Are we like, is this just where we are? Do you think that there's any other conversations being had in the Woody, or do you think this is a result of there's not much out there to go get, and so they're not going to just go get something? And then, so my example would be, let's say we went out and got, I don't know, that kid from Texas, the 315 pounder or whatever, the interior offensive lineman. And then they tell George Fitzpatrick, to hit the brakes. I'm just picking a name, so sorry, George. But he's been in a program for 3 years, and they know what they have in him. So I just don't see them doing that. That's not who Ryan Day is. It's not their mantra. Now, not to say that, like, a stud right or left tackle dropped in the portal, they wouldn't, go make some moves. But yeah, I mean, I think we are where we are. But what do you think, Dean?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things to think about here. First, we had our departures in the December window. I mean, I think people forget, I think we lost 12, 13, if not 14 guys.
Yes, yep.
That were depth pieces. So it's not surprising to me that we haven't seen a bunch of guys leave in this spring window. I also heard a quote from Ryan that he thinks it speaks to the culture of the program. He thinks it speaks to the fact that, this class of 21 decided to come back pretty much in full this year to go after some unfinished goals and some unmet goals. And quite frankly, you can phrase it as failures, to be corrected. And he thinks that, there's just a sense of commitment with this group of kids. And he in turn said that, he didn't say, but he kind of hinted at the fact that that's probably why they haven't been as active either.
Absolutely.
They were active in the fall portal. I do think that if there was a starting quality person to come along, that we would be all over it, especially on the offensive line, right? I mean, that's really the only place that we need somebody. I mean, we could have gone out and got that safety from A&M who's committed to Oregon, but who
I like our secondary.
I mean, we're loaded. Yeah, we're absolutely loaded. So I don't know. I think between the fact that we lost most of our players in December and that this group has a sense of commitment to us, that we're just not seeing a lot of people go. The Dallin Hayden thing, man, I want to root for the kid, and I'm going to root for the kid. Don't get me wrong. I do think that it was a messed up situation. We're never going to know for sure what happened with that while he was here.
He did.
Juck did a really good job this morning, of the side-by-side, like alternating between clips of when he got interviewed last year as opposed to this year. And I'm just baffled, man, that he went to Colorado. I don't know if there's a connection there between his father and Sanders. I'm probably not going to take the time to dig into that. It is what it is at this point. But I just don't see how that's the best place for him. That program is an absolute dumpster fire. Deion has, and let me be clear, and do not come at me with, man, it just seems like a lot of the people that complain about Deion look like you. Don't do that, because that's not what this is about. I was a big Deion fan last year. I've been a big Deion fan since he played. I mean, I love Deion Sanders, the player. Yep. I love what he did with pulling Hunter over to Jackson State. I loved him when he was on the NFL Network. I mean, he's an entertaining, charismatic, Hall of Fame caliber guy. But what he's done with that program after all the pomp and circumstance at the beginning of last year is a disgrace. It's a dumpster fire. And the way he treats those kids, and some people might say, other programs treat kids the exact same way. They just don't talk about it. That might be fair. But, man, I'm telling you, the guy's out of there after this year. There's no way he sticks around after his 2 sons and Travis Hunter are gone. People think he's going to go and coach in the NFL. Who's going to hire him to coach in the
Jim
NFL?
Harbaugh will.
They were 4-8 last year.
I got him. Sorry, folks.
Oh my God! Can you imagine a Felix and Oscar? Is there a better Felix and Oscar, match made in heaven than Harbaugh and Deion Sanders. Wow. First of all, Deion's not going to be taking a back seat to anybody, so I don't see that happening. But yeah, you got me there. But I feel bad for the kid that's where he's going. I hope it works out for him. I really do. I like the kid, but man, just the way Deion is conducting himself in the last, as soon as the tide started to turn last year. I don't get it.
A little known fact about me is that, like, I, as uncool as it is to say this, like, I was a Browns fan, but I was also a Cowboys fan, and it all started when the Herschel Walker trade happened. But I had believe it or not, I had a Bernie Kosar Dallas Cowboys jersey when he played for the Cowboys and ended up getting into the Super Bowl and winning a Super Bowl. And then I had a Deion Sanders Cowboys jersey growing up as well. So, no slight here, I guess. I enjoyed Deion when he was playing. You guys didn't like my take, so I don't even know if I should talk about it, about how Colorado is just a glorified MAC school. So that happens to play out and, have a celebrity coach. And I thought maybe, Dallin was trying to cash in on the amount of TV time that Colorado and publicity Colorado gets. Not saying that's what he's doing. It was just one of those things. I was trying to figure out why the move, and so I just thought maybe he could showcase his talents playing at Colorado. Joel Klatt hypes up Colorado because he went, he graduated from there. So there's a lot of eyeballs on it. So I just thought maybe, since he took such a back seat in Columbus, maybe that, but I don't know. I don't know the kid. He seems like a really genuine kid. So I hope he does well. Yeah.
He just doesn't seem to have the.
I know that's the thing. That's the thing. That's why I said it. Maybe he's just because he can get the playing time and there's eyeballs there that maybe he gets noticed. For the NFL. I just I don't know. I don't. I'm not in on that, but anyway, so transfer portal's quiet. Other than you text me about 11 o'clock this morning and said, hey, the NCAA just ratified the transfer rule. So why don't you tell our friends about that?
Yeah, so basically what they did was, due to pressure from the pending court cases, they went and essentially said that kids can transfer as many times as they want, as long as they are academically eligible, which takes away my strategy that I thought some coaches might invoke. And they're on track to graduate.
Watch out, Stetson Bennett.
Study, which I thought was an interesting piece there. So I've joked that as long as they're academically eligible, I joke that coaches are going to start paying off professors to hand out C's and D's to their star players so they can't transfer. But if they're not eligible to transfer, then I'm assuming wouldn't be eligible to play for us, even though there used to be,
I thought it was like a 2.3. I thought you had to maintain like a 2.3 to be academically eligible. And because I knew that D's, like, it could definitely cause problems for you. But that was, obviously I'm old, so.
Yeah. The other piece of being on track to graduate, I need to dig into that a little bit more, because that seems like a school could legitimately, oh, you know what? You're 3 credits short of being on track. You can't transfer. So obviously I'm being cynical and facetious a little bit, but anyways, that's it, man. It's open season now. There were rumors that kids were going to be able to transfer and be immediately eligible during the season. That's no longer true.
I don't like that at all.
That's not true. You can't, like a kid. There's still only the 2 portal windows. You have to be in the portal, and all that. So it's not like a kid can, get up to the week before the first game and realize that, he's not going to start, or he went from first to second or second to third on the depth chart. Okay. And he can transfer and be eligible. It's not that
cool.
Wild.
So you sent this to me, and I really actually love this. question, and you said you wanted to talk about Chip Kelly and his history of using the quarterbacks in the run game, and what does that mean for DB33 and Julian Sayin? Howard. No, I did it on purpose.
Yeah, you meant Will Howard. I saw that in the notes. I'm like, I know what you meant.
It was a joke. It was a joke. I was just seeing if you would be like, what is this? So, but really for all three, because I do, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say we're going to see some of Julian Sayin in the fourth quarter against Akron and Western Michigan. I'm sure Keenholz will get his shots too. But I do think that so let me preface this by saying
you are way more optimistic.
They got to do something, because if they don't, you roll into next year with Will as a senior, a fifth-year senior. So let's say camp breaks and Will's like, I'm out because you're rolling with Devin Brown. Next year, it's Julian Sayin's team, man, or he's gone. It's hard.
Yeah, it's going to be hard, man. I mean, listen, all Brian's ever done is let the second string quarterback go in and hand the ball off, right? So we're talking about getting the second string guy in there. We're talking about getting QB2 in the game for meaningful, relevant reps and running the offense.
Well, I mean, so let me say this then.
And getting the third guy in there to do the same?
We roll into the season. Devin's the starter. Lincoln's the backup. Or vice versa, or Will's the starter, etc. And the number two rotates. Like, so against Akron, Lincoln gets a bunch of the reps and gets to run the offense for the second half of the third quarter and fourth quarter. And then against Western Michigan, Julian gets to do that, and you get live game reps, live game bullets, and like I said, with our defense, if we're not up, 5 scores midway through the third quarter, something went horribly wrong. If we're not pitching shutouts. So I'm putting that on you now, defense. So I'm just asking, like, in my mind, personally, I believe that Ryan Day has to get those guys ready. And if he doesn't, we have a problem. I know I'm not wrong.
I mean, you're not wrong. I'll believe it when I'll believe it. I'm not always right, but I'm never wrong. I'll believe it when I see it, bro. I mean, it's just, listen, my new favorite catchphrase is "in Chip we trust." Okay. Yep. So I'm putting an awful lot on Chip having influence over this situation, because I think he would be thinking along the lines that we are and that you just described. Ryan just has no track record of it, man.
South Dakota slinger.
Lincoln getting reps. I mean, like, Lincoln. Rumor has it they sent some money at they after spring practice. Lincoln got some money to stick around.
Yeah. Well, doesn't he have a really great NIL deal with, like,
episode to unpack that? Like, why?
Yeah, Abercrombie, and then there's an underwear one too. Calvin Klein, maybe. Fitch, like he's got some pretty decent nil stuff John,
and that's yeah. And to be fair, that's when I saw the information, somebody jumped in and
Express.
Maybe it's a deal with one of those. They mentioned like
because CJ had Express too.
Probably one of
CJ had Express too. So
it's got to be one of the Wexler companies.
Why not? If you got it, spend it.
But still, like, what? Why? I mean, why? No, I understand that, but why are we worried about keeping Lincoln around? Like, why are we facilitating that? It takes a phone call. Like, I don't think these people are reaching out. Maybe. I mean, he's a
word on the street. He's a
looking kid. I mean, looks like he should be on an A&F poster. But if we're talking about strictly from the
word on the
chart,
street, JJ McCarthy.
I mean, Lincoln. I'll be shocked if Lincoln ever.
He's the next JJ McCarthy. I was being funny. It was not being
Went
real.
on the street live.
No, it was just being fun. I was just, yeah, he did. Yeah. So, all right. So let's talk about what you actually want to talk about, though, was the QB run
like
game.
JJ played
So one of the things that I went back through, and I actually went back and rewatched, just for funsies, the 2014 Ohio State versus Oregon national championship game, 2015, I guess. And I didn't see Mariota pull the ball a lot, and I'll be honest, I know that Chip did a little bit of it in Philadelphia when he was with the Eagles. So again, I'm coming back to, I think we're talking less than 5 carries a game for the quarterback, and I'm actually tempted to take the under on that. So what are you thinking? Mm-hmm.
I mean, yes, and we covered this, I think, on our episode with Jock about the notes from Chip Kelly's coaching clinic. And man, I tell you what, if there is one thing I'm going to try to do, is I'm going to try to be at that coaching clinic next year. I don't know how, but I want to sit in and listen to Chip Kelly talk. Like, they said they were literally turning the lights off, and he was still up there talking. Like, he just loves to talk ball, and he's a really, really good teacher. But the thing is that Chip says, he goes, I want the running
QB
back
power
to carry the ball every single time. If I wanted the QB to run, I would call QB run. And what I don't think people realize and understand is,
it started with Braxton.
Like what we saw with JT Barrett, that was a QB, that was a power QB run system, right?
Because it gives you extra numbers.
They were called. That was an Urban Meyer thing, right? Urban Meyer liked to run the quarterback, call the quarterback run. Chip's like, Chip wants to use that quarterback basically as a quote unquote blocker to take up that extra player on the defense and prevent them from going and getting the running back. Now, they're going to be allowed to now if the end crashes and the linebacker crashes, the line of scrimmage, and everybody's going at the running back because, I don't know, maybe because we can't throw the ball downfield or we're struggling throwing the ball one day, then he's going to be okay with those guys keeping it, but it's not going to be a called keep. It's going to be a read. And for that reason, I agree with what you said, less than 5. And all we need to do is look at Will Howard's.
He's not Michael Vick. Yeah.
He averages less than 5 carries a game. Like, there's this perception out there that he's going to come and be this running quarterback and he's going to be JT Barrett.
Well, let me
and it's not the same offense.
Let me help people with this a little bit too, and what Chip Kelly is talking about as a blocker, and I think this is important. And Dan, you and I both understand assignment football. So if you're running an option like a speed option or a power option, either one, on the defense, either the Mike or the Will is going to be assigned to either the running back or the quarterback. And if the end crashes down and then the Will picks up the running back, that leaves room for the quarterback to keep. If the Will crashes down on the quarterback, then he's going to pitch it. But you're taking away another defender has to be assigned to the quarterback. So I just wanted to break that down real quick, and you can correct me, Dan. So it depends on the type of defense that they're running. Sometimes you're queuing off the Mike, sometimes you're queuing off the end, sometimes you're queuing off the Will. It just depends if it's a 34 or 43 defense. Oh yeah, he'll read a tackle for sure, depending on what he does with if the wide receiver's in motion or not, or the tight end's in motion.
I mean, Chip will have the QB read the tackle or the nose guard sometimes. Yeah. So,
and the defense is responsible for that quarterback. So you're taking you now get to play. You now get to remove that defender from the equation when it comes to who has the football. So, no, I get it, and I like it, and I think it's hard because people in general are nostalgic, and we're nostalgic for what worked, and what worked was under Urban Meyer giving us a natty with JT Barrett and Cardale Jones and the QB power. So they think, and the game has changed, guys. It's been 10 years. Okay. The game has changed. You go back, you think about like, oh yeah, well, I haven't forgotten. It's behind me, all around me, my natties. So
Our friends up
it's
north remind us that all
the
the
game
time.
has
So
changed, and I think even Kevin Noon and I had a discussion about this, about how like never in a million years would Julian Sayin be the starting quarterback this year, because you just don't see true freshmen come in and do that anymore. It's not like it was in the 2000s. The game has changed. It's faster. The complexity, all of those things. So um, I am concerned if Chip is going to run the quarterback, and our quarterback's Julian saying we need to beef him up a little bit. But I think Devin and Will, and even Lincoln to an extent, Lincoln looks like a different kid this year than he even did in the Missouri game. Can take a few 3 to 4 hits a game and be okay. But JT Barrett was a different animal, man. He was a running back playing quarterback. So those days I don't know for how much. Yeah, he doesn't. I really appreciated JT Barrett a lot. So, all right. So now we get to do a
JT
fun
Barrett does not
segment
get
that
enough
you asked me about
for
doing,
being
and
one
I
of the
left
best
it off,
all-time
because let me
quarterbacks
preface this
of
by
all time.
saying I don't cover much about Michigan. Like I joke about them a little bit, but so the NCAA punishment came out for the 2020 COVID recruiting violations, the quote unquote cheeseburger. So 3 years of probation for the school and a fine, recruiting restrictions in alignment with the level 1 mitigated classification for the school, including any violation that provides or intends to provoke a substantial or extensive recruiting competitive advantage, or participating individuals who did this agreed to have a show cause consistent with level 2 violations. What are your thoughts? Harsh enough? Not harsh enough? Exactly what you expected? Sure.
I think it's on par with what. So there's a couple things to unwrap here, right? I'm going to ask you to keep me on track. Penalties for the infraction.
Mm.
Unresolved portion of penalties for this infraction, and does
Yep.
it put them in a repeat
I thought
offender status? So, first one, penalties for the infraction. I think the penalties for this infraction were pretty fair. I think they were reasonable. I know there's people in Buckeye Nation that were thinking it was going to be way worse. But let's back up for a second and make sure people really truly understand. This is not about Jim Harbaugh taking out a recruit and buying him a cheeseburger. Okay? This is about Michigan having kids on campus during COVID dead periods. Now, during that time frame, Harbaugh did happen to buy a kid a cheeseburger.
No, he never
receipt
admitted
was
it.
discovered. And up to this time, as far
He
as
never
I know,
admitted
if I'm
it.
wrong, tell me I'm wrong. He has continued to lie about it. Let's put it this way. He's continued to say he does not remember. Okay, so that's why it became cheeseburger game.
Fair enough.
Right? So the cheeseburger was a subplot. Okay, I still think their mascot should be Hamburglar between this and the sign stealing scandal. I think that should be their new mascot. But that's what this was for. And I think this is fair. I think the penalties are fair. Now, what's interesting is that they've doled out punishment for the folks that have cooperated, and they've left open the investigation or the pending punishment for the one person who has not yet cooperated. Well, we all know who that is. So I think he's going to get a show cause just for this. Now let's talk about the repeat offender status. I know it's popular for Buckeye Nation to say they're going to get hammered with repeat offender status. I don't think it applies. My understanding is that you have to currently be on probation for a level 1 violation and commit another level 1 violation during that probation period. the sign stealing scandal took place while this was still being investigated, so they were not yet on probation. So I don't think they apply. I don't think they qualify for repeat offender status. A lot of other shows are saying
I just
they
wondered,
do, and it's a
because they had an ongoing
investigation,
investigation, and then
I don't think it's accurate. I could be wrong.
This is kind of split into three different things,
like
because you also have the computer crimes issue with and I don't know we don't know what that is, and I'm not going to speculate because that's not what I do. Okay. All right. I went a different direction with it, so
I think that's. I'm
not going to say it on the show.
That's part of the
and the other, I'll tell you afterwards. And then, so I don't know. Well, yeah. I don't know what to think. Other than I will say that I thought the punishment levied was fair. I don't feel like they came after them in any way. I thought it was interesting that they do have some recruiting restrictions that now apply, and they've been having some issues with recruiting up until this point. But it's early; it's April. Stuff happens. Yeah, they did that defensive lineman. Yeah. He's a top 5, I think, defensive tackle.
They did just get a stud. I mean, people want to poo-poo.
Yeah. So I thought the NCAA what they levied was fair. And I think, if I remember right, I think Nebraska is under investigation for something like this too, from when Scott Frost was there during COVID. So, it's probably they did. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, ASU just got hammered.
Yep.
I mean, ASU got hammered, which and they cooperated.
Just a smidge, yeah.
They cooperated with the investigation, and they got hammered. Now, what they did was way more egregious than what Michigan did. I mean, it was bad. It was blatant. It was flippant. It was bad. So I do understand why it was a lot more. It was a lot harsher of a penalty. However, let's just look at that for a minute. They had to vacate wins for recruiting violations.
Well, I think the question for me is, and this is just for me, and maybe other people think this way too, and you can let me know.
It's just how much.
I think that there will be vacated wins, regular season wins. What I'm curious about is because you had the head of the college football playoff committee come out and say, this is a different structure. Like, we're not part of the NCAA. We do things our own way. I don't see them vacating the title. I'm just going to be honest. I don't see them doing that. I don't see there being a hole there. They won't let it happen.
No, but here's the deal. This is where it becomes debatable. And I agree with you. Number one, let me say that first. But it is completely reasonable to expect the wins to be vacated during the time frame that they were considered to be cheating. Okay, so you're looking at all of 21, all of 22. Does that include Big Ten championship? Probably. But this is where it gets dicey, is that the first half of 23, they were cheating. So if you vacate those wins, and now all of a sudden they've got 6 losses or 7 losses on their schedule for that season, yet they have a national championship banner, that's where it's going to get really dicey. Now, Michigan folks like to say, like they like to quote Charlie Barker saying that, because we figured it out during the season, we don't think it had any impact on the playoff. And that's a conversation for a whole nother day. I mean, they had at least 3 years worth of information on their now granted, people can change and there's signals and all that other kind of stuff, but yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. I mean, it's going to happen. It's inevitably going to happen. And, we'll probably have a whole episode or two dedicated to it when it does. I just think it's funny I don't know if people really truly understand how Michigan got pinged for this to begin with. It was there is a somebody from Michigan State reported that there were attempts at pinging. There were continual attempts to ping their server from outside the campus, like their malware or their software or whatever they got was picking up these attempts to ping their server from outside.
It wasn't
the
Connor Stallions being on the Central
into
Michigan sideline,
and that led to it being discovered that it was coming from the Michigan Athletic Center. That's what started this investigation.
Yeah.
It's not talk.
When's he being RICO'd again? When's the RICO? When's the arrest?
And it was not Ryan Day getting his brother to, launch a private investigation.
All right.
So
yeah.
Yeah. Well, according to last week on Twitter, it was inevitable again. But I mean, there's so much to unwrap with it. But those folks that I had an old teacher reach out to me from. He was my English teacher in junior high, and then my debate teacher in high school. And he's a huge Washington Husky fan, so we kind of reconnected through social media during the playoff run last year. And he texted me the other day, Mr. D, I'm giving you a shout out. Kevin Dressler, I refer to him as Mr. D. He reached out the other day, and I got the impression that he thought that this punishment included the sign scheme,
kind of sliding forward with the Michigan stuff out of 2023 to 2024.
Rest assured, Michigan is going to get hammered for the sign
nationally televised spring game for them after our nationally televised spring game of 80+ thousand. Michigan drew about 20. Now, okay, all right. I thought I saw 20. I thought I saw 28. Oh, okay.
Let's be fair.
Well, it is what it is. I'm not picking on that. It's a spring game, because I have that tradition of going to the spring game, and I love it. I was there when we had over 100,000. I sent you a screenshot of it from 2016, but I didn't watch all of it. I'll be honest. I kind of like fast forwarded through quite a bit of it. But did you have any takeaways? I sent you guys mine, you and Juck, because we have our Pod Bros text thread. But did you I know you saw some stuff on Twitter. What do you think? Okay.
Dude, I am always going to try to be 100% honest and transparent. I watched maybe 3 or 4 plays.
I turned it on just to see comparatively, like Ohio State's spring game setup, fans, Klatt,
those yellow uniforms,
coaching structure. I was just genuinely curious. And then I got to tell you, man, Orji is fast. I mean, watching him, he moves really well, but can't throw for a lick. Everything so I finally figured out here it reminds me of Joe Milton. So like, yeah, well, sometimes I'm generous. But yeah, so I don't know. I kind of thought he kind of, because they were hyping up Joe Milton at Michigan too. Like he runs like Cam Newton, throws like Peyton Manning, and Orji's got. I mean, yeah. Well, that's what they were saying. Like he was like this, hybrid of all these quarterbacks back then. But I don't know. I joked around that he was John O'Korn 2.0, but I think he's better than O'Korn. But yeah, I don't know. My takeaway was their defense is still pretty good. And then I know Jonah Booker pointed out that Wink had the DBs on islands in the spring game. So I just wondered if he knew Orji was that bad and couldn't throw the ball down the field, or if he's another Don Brown 2.0. And that's something I've already said before, that Wink, his defense is very similar to Don Brown's. He does love to put his guys on islands out there. So those crossing routes are open all day long. Oh.
Interesting. Yeah, while I did not watch
Okay.
it, to be honest, I just couldn't run the chance of seeing any sort of a ring ceremony. Like I didn't even want to see it for a split second. And I caught wind that they might be doing that during the telecast. So I didn't want to see it.
No, he played into the
But I
fourth,
did,
I think.
see plenty of stuff. I've seen plenty of clips on Twitter. Yeah, I mean, he struggles to throw the ball,
Mhm.
man. I mean, I think it's really interesting that they put him back in
Mhm.
the third quarter. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they put him back in the yeah, and they put him in against the threes to get his
Yep.
his stats.
He's
up.
Joe Milton.
Like, his stats weren't like he was horrible against the ones, just horrible throwing the ball.
Mhm.
Very dynamic runner, very formidable runner,
Mm.
but throwing the ball, he's bad. Interesting. I just saw where the quarterback, what's his name, Deacon Hill from Iowa, he just hit the portal today, and he's got visits scheduled to Utah State, Nevada, and Michigan.
Okay. Well, maybe
I gotta dig
maybe
in and
Cade
find out if that's
McNamara is
real or
going
not.
back.
I have a feeling it might have been satire, but it came from. Never mind. Now I know who it came from. I feel
Well,
like
that's
an
fair.
idiot. I don't think it's real. There were a lot of jokes that
Yeah.
well, there were jokes that if
Yeah.
that Michigan's gonna have an Iowa type offense this year, right? Really good defense, Iowa type offense. So it's like go get the Iowa quarterback. Yeah, I don't think that's true. I got to correct myself on the spot now that I know who sent that out. But yeah, I mean, I think they're
Mason Graham and
I
remember the other one.
I think their defense is going to be really. I mean, they're returning 9 starters on that defense, including those 2 defensive tackles that are freaking studs. I mean, I don't know. But 9 of 11 starters on, the number 1 scoring defense in the country. Now, that defense benefited from a ball control offense. So let's see.
Yeah,
what happens if they've got to be on the
I
field
think the one that'll tell the tale of the tape for me. I think it's the second game of the season they played Texas. And so we'll know what Michigan is after that Texas game. Just like so I will tell you that I felt very much the same way after we lost to Oregon a couple of years ago, because we knew at that point what our defense was. And so we knew that it wasn't going to be good enough to win a national championship if they didn't fix it. So we'll know what they are. I didn't think that.
Right.
Yeah. So we throttled Michigan State by what 42-0, and then 49-0, and then promptly went up to Michigan and lost. So yeah, so we can't. The transitive property doesn't work. I mean, you can use it if you want, but
49-0 at half.
It's not. You got to play the football game. So yeah.
Oh, you're talking about this year.
Hey, sometimes my brain is smart. Sometimes it's dumb. All right, guys. Well, that's gonna do it for today. We've ventured into the land of algebra. If you're still with us, like and subscribe. Remember, Dan's appearance on Scarlet and Great pops off today, so please take a look at that. Dan, any last words, man?
No, I just do want to point out to all the folks that don't share my.
Nope. All right, guys. Well, thank you for listening. As always, we appreciate you. We'll see you on Friday for Buckeye Friday. And until then, you guys stay safe out there. And as always, go Bucks. I don't think
we're getting rid of them yet. Go Bucks.